It's World Business Investors Week, and I am your host, Tabajoy Masie. What a time for an entrepreneur to actually be in business and have the ecosystem surrounding them that's there to support their businesses. But it's not just about being an energetic entrepreneur, but also ensuring that we are creating businesses that are eco-friendly. And this time around, our global theme is focused on business transformation for post-pandemic economies. And I'm sure you agree with me that a lot of businesses collapsed while we had the COVID pandemic, and then now what we're creating is an environment that can help us now work through the pandemic and see how we can actually improve our businesses. Our country theme is very interesting. What we have is an inclusive green business transformation through angel investment and public-private partnerships. What a time to create businesses that are being supported, especially those in the green economy, as we create eco-friendly type of businesses. And to start off the event, we're going to have a keynote speech from Nambula Kachumi, who is the country chair of World Business Angel Investors Forum. A warm welcome.
Thank you very much, Tabo, and a big thank you to our global angel investment community that is joining us today to commemorate the World Business Angel Investors Week. The Minister of Green Economy, Mr. Collins Nzovu, President of the World Business Angel Investors Forum, Mr. Babas Altuntas, WBAF Continental Country Chairs, High Commissioners, Senators, and international partners, WBAF collaborators and stakeholders, senior government and quasi-government officials and private corporates, Investor Week Roundtable keynote speakers, panelists, and all local actors for Zambia. Ladies and gentlemen, World Business Angels Investors Week is celebrated globally under a theme, and this year, as a global community pioneering angel investment, as a must-have financial tool for boosting economies, we reflect on business transformation in post-pandemic economies. To bring this home, Zambia celebrates with the rest of the world and alongside other WBAF global communities in more than 132 countries under the theme Inclusive Business Transformation through smart green investment and public-private partnerships. What this means, ladies and gentlemen, is that as a country, we are stopping for a moment not to only think about the future of business in post-pandemic economies, but also stopping to think about acting now and putting a stop to any form of threat that have the potential to inhibit how we move forward as a country and acting together in building a resilient, sustainable green economy through responsible business. To achieve this successfully, public-private partnerships are crucial and form a basis for comprehensive dialogue. With the COVID-19 pandemic still peddling our social, culture, and economic bedrock, we are alerted to the fact that unless small companies receive financial support for transforming their business, they will not be able to survive in a post-pandemic era. This means their capacity to create more jobs and social wealth for economies will be lost. As we look back and forge ahead, we are faced with a unique and rare opportunity to meet and explore fresh, innovative ideas that inspire current and future leaders of the world to take risks on new ideas, collaborate across sectors, and transform world economies. Again, PPPs are crucial to this transformation now and will continue to be in the future. On behalf of the World Business Angel Investors Forum, and in my capacity as World Business Angel Investors Week Country Chair, I am delighted to take this opportunity to thank all our partners, ecosystem actors, and enablers for leveraging this platform to scale entrepreneurship, angel investment, financial inclusion, and innovation. It is very rewarding to see that governments around the world, together with private sector, have understood the importance of angel investment for boosting their economies. However, without a strong and thriving startup economy, there would be no meaningful growth or let alone impact from angel investment. This week being extra special, with the World Business Angel Investors Week falling within Startup Week Lusaka, under the theme Embracing a Smart Circular Economy, we take time to celebrate the courage and resilience of startup and early stage businesses that make innovation and business continuity possible. Big congratulations to NyamukaAfrica and WEAC Zambia for your continued effort in building stronger startup ecosystems and deepening understanding on the power of partnerships. WBAF, an affiliated partner of the G20 Global Partnerships for Financial Inclusion, GPFI, brings together key players of the equity market to discuss the benefits and challenges to the angel investment communities achieving successful growth for their businesses, and to discuss what more can be done to connect the early stage market ecosystem. The 4 missions of WBAF include easing access to smart finance for entrepreneurs and angel investors, promoting gender equality, increasing financial inclusion, and indeed promoting digital inclusion. With more than 1,003 partners in more than 132 countries, WBAF contributes to the development of the world economies through its various initiatives, including the WBAF Business School, Global Startup Investment Promotion Agency, the WIPA, the WBAF Publication House, the Angel Investment Fund, and its country and city offices across 4 continents. The World Business Angels Investors Forum campaigns for solutions such as critical issues and other worldwide concerns at the United Nations, the European Union, and in G20 countries and regional and local economies through its Diplomacy in Action for Entrepreneurs initiative. It is my sincere hope that throughout this week and during today's roundtable discussions in Zambia, WBAF will create more visibility locally and worldwide in demonstrating benefits of green smart finance and angel investment as a tool for business transformation. Special thanks to the Minister of Green Economy in Zambia, Honorable Collins Nzovu, for finding time to grace this occasion, which is a clear demonstration on the value that government places on SMEs and their role in business transformation through green sustainable investment. In conclusion, I'd like to wish all the best to our panelists and keynote speakers during these roundtable discussions today as Zambia joins the rest of the world in celebrating the World Business Angel Investors Week. I thank you.
Would like to thank those warm remarks coming from Nambula Kachumi, who is the country chair of Zambia and under the World Business Angel Investors. We're now going to have a speech from our keynote speaker, and that's Babas Atuntas, the executive chair, World Business Angel Investors Forum.
Dear presidents, dear prime ministers, dear ministers, continental chairs, country chairs, and dear participants. Even before the COVID-19 pandemic, business transformation was a concern of big companies. But now it is imperative, and not just for large enterprises. Even the smallest companies and organizations must transform their business as a matter of urgency in order to cope with dynamics of the post-pandemic business environment. Surveys reveal that most small companies and entrepreneurs in the startup economy are suffering financially. their plight will become even more serious if they have not been able to complete their business transformation before the new normal sets in. The challenge is this: business transformation is not a cheap process. How realistic is it to encourage entrepreneurs to invest in business transformation when they are struggling just to meet their short-term expenses? Given this situation, as an affiliated partner of the G20 Global Partnership for Financial Inclusion, the World Business Angels Investment Forum invites policymakers to develop smart policies that will provide financial support for startups, scale-ups, SMEs, and all entrepreneurs to help them transform their business. WBAF believes that more public-private partnerships should be mobilized for this purpose, and governmental recovery plans need to include financial support for entrepreneurs' business transformation efforts. Governments must be alerted to the fact that unless small companies receive financial support for transforming their business, they will not be able to survive in post-pandemic times. This means their capacity to create more jobs and social wealth for economies will be lost. I would like to thank in advance all the stakeholders and partners who will be contributing to World Business Angel Investors Week 2022. They will be highlighting the importance of business transformation for post-pandemic times, the topic of this year's event. I believe to grow and thrive in a post-pandemic world, swift business transformation into a pandemic-proof organizational model is vital if we are to ensure the sustainability of world economies in the new normal. I would like to thank the organizing committee and colleagues who will be taking roles as continental chairs, country chairs, global partners, keynote speakers, and panel discussants. Their combined efforts will create value for the world's startup economies, not only during this week, but in the future as well. They will focus on harnessing the collective knowledge of the world's most influential women leaders, policymakers, entrepreneurs, and artists with a view to addressing critical issues of early-stage equity markets in the new normal. This week will be a great platform from which to campaign for solutions to such critical issues and other worldwide concerns at the United Nations, the European Union, and in G20 countries and regional and local economies. World Business Angel Investors Week 2022 is celebrated in 132 countries of 5 continents and 2 regions, with more than 200,000 participants from around the world, 320 keynote speakers, 765 distinguished panel speakers, addresses of 12 presidents, 6 prime ministers, 32 ministers. This is really great. And it is a great pleasure for the World Business Angels Investment Forum to coordinate this particular event of the world globally. The ultimate goal of all of the week's keynotes, discussions, presentations, and workshops is to agree on a common roadmap for entrepreneurs, startups, and SMEs that will enable them to emerge from this pandemic period even stronger than they were before. I have good news, by the way. The next World Congress of Angel Investors will be in person on 25 and 26 of October in Antalya of Turkey. This will be the first global convergence of world investors, public funds, startups, angel investors, wealth management institutions after Mr. COVID started traveling around the world. So I am very excited to see all of you in person next October in Antalya. And our Congress topic will be digital transformation for post-pandemic economies. We will discuss this week business transformation, and we will discuss digital transformation next October in Turkey. And we will collect all our collective knowledge and we'll go on thriving to empower the world economy through innovation entrepreneurship and angel investment. I'm confident that each participant in the World Business Angel Investors Week will benefit from the collaborative ideas, know-how exchange, training programs and workshops, and global networking opportunities that are offered. I believe that by working together across borders with a common vision and smart dynamics in mind, we are well placed to bring about positive change in the global economy. Thank you very much for joining our global efforts to ease access to finance for entrepreneurs, promote gender equality, increase financial inclusion, and promote the importance of digital inclusion for post-pandemic times. Thank you.
As an entrepreneur, I'm sure you're very excited to know that now more than ever, we have a friendly environment that's ensuring that SMEs are actually being able to thrive. Now we have the government that's being involved in everything that's happening, and by creating policies that are actually creating a thriving environment for all SMEs. We're now going to have the next speaker, who is Mr. Elias Chipimo, the president of Zambia Business Angel Network.
Greetings from Zambia. My name is Elias Chipimo, and I am the president of the Zambia Business Angels Network. And I'm delighted to speak at this year's World Business Angel Forum on the theme Inclusive Green Business Transformation through Angel Investment and Public and Private Partnerships. Africa faces two significant challenges. The first is very high and growing youth unemployment. And of course, the second is major environmental degradation, which is impacting Africa and other developing nations more significantly, even though we have contributed less to the problem than other nations. The reality is that governments cannot create enough jobs to absorb the masses of youth that flood the job market in many African countries every single year. It cannot be a job that we leave to the government alone. And therefore governments must work hand in hand with the private sector to ensure that these youth and the women and people in vulnerable groups can be suitably engaged. And the solution lies in how we develop the small, medium, and micro sector. We believe that a partnership has three critical elements that will enable us to address the challenges that we face as a global community. Number one is we need to focus on training. Number two, we need to focus on rapid and appropriate technology adoption. And the third thing we need to focus on is how we promote, in a very deliberate way, private enterprise, recognizing that this has to be the key for absorbing the masses of young people that are coming onto the job market every year. When we look at training, it's critical that we focus on training a mindset, because it is clear that those entrepreneurs that succeed have one key thing in common, is that they believe they can succeed. And what angel investment does is it gives hope to young entrepreneurs, to early stage enterprises. Because these are the catchment area. These are the bedrock of the future industrial enterprises that will power the development of the global economy. And if these catchment areas aren't properly protected, just like the environment, then we'll see a drying out of the kind of industries that can play a role in absorbing future labor demand, as well as growing the economies of the nations that they are a part of. So that training is not necessarily around specific skills, but it's about unlocking a mindset of entrepreneurialism, which is really made up of three things. creativity, proactivity, and resilience. And it's this combination of capabilities that angel investors, who themselves have been entrepreneurs, bring to the equation of how we resolve the challenge of youth unemployment in Africa. The second factor is the need for us to consider carefully how we can rapidly and broadly scale out the adoption of new technologies like blockchain. Blockchain is a great leveler. The creativity and sense of enterprise that resides in each one of the young people that are emerging on our continent can be harnessed and used to apply itself using this important bedrock foundational technology called blockchain. The applications are almost as wide as one's imagination. And we've seen it in government-to-person relationships, government-to-government interactions, person-to-person relationships, as in the example of peer-to-peer transactions for cryptocurrencies. It's very important that these technologies are harnessed because they will enable Africa to leapfrog certain stages of development and to overcome the infrastructural deficit that has been plaguing the development progress for many, many years. The third thing that's going to be very important is for governments within Africa to deliberately promote private enterprise development. Now that will involve them adjusting the policy frameworks that they have in place so that incentives built around tax benefits being made available to angel investors that can allocate resources to this sector, which governments, even if they are able to convene the kind of meetings that can draw in these resources from other stakeholders, donor nations, would not have the right mechanisms for ensuring that the money is applied in the right way. And this is where the partnerships with governments and the angel investor community are important, because the angel investors have skin in the game. They take a stake in an enterprise, they provide capacity development support, they provide strategic guidance, they help these companies ensure that they are compliant. But most importantly, they're able to give a sense of hope and direction around the right mindset for success, because they will have been through the rather challenging and difficult journey of setting up and running a successful business. No business ever emerges unscathed from the vagaries of uncertainty, obstacles, of lack of capital, the challenges of the naysayers and the doubters. These are all normal parts and normal processes of the development of a business. And the angel investor community plays a crucial role in mentoring young enterprises, young entrepreneurs, and helping them to overcome these challenges. We must work with all stakeholders. We must work with governments, we must work with academic institutions, we must work with intermediaries. We must support the pipeline of investee enterprises and ensure that they are ready to take on the challenge of responding to the need to protect our environment while creating businesses that can generate the future wealth that these nations will depend on. I thank you very much.
Something interesting that has actually tipped off my mind as Mr. Elias Chipimo was talking about is mentorship. And as somebody who's an alumnus of the Academy for Women Entrepreneurs, I know when I started the program, it was all about a change of mindset. It's about understanding what are you trying to do as an entrepreneur and how are you actually impacting the community. And he keeps talking about mentorship, and that's something that's being offered this week during the Startup Week, where entrepreneurs are actually able to talk to mentors and share their ideas and have them refined to actually be in a position where they can actually solve customer problems or even just the problems that we have in our economy. And something that also he's mentioned is how it's important to have various parties in the ecosystem to actually ensure that they are helping SMEs to thrive. We're now going to go to our next speaker, and this is Honorable Collins Nzovu, who's the Minister of Green Economy.
The World Business Angel Investors Forum, WBAF Chairperson, Mr. Bebas Atantas, Women Entrepreneurship Access Center, Director and World Business Angel Investors Week Country Chair, Mrs. Nambula Kachumi, Nyamuka Zambia, WEAC and WAF country collaborators, senior government officials, heads of quasi-government institutions, chief executives, executive heads of business and the private sector, the global startups and angel investor community, extended virtual guests, members of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Let me begin by thanking WEAC and WBAF country team in Zambia in partnership with NyamukaAfrica and Techstars for this great collaboration in bringing together various ecosystem actors to a platform that will foster the much-needed intersection between public and private sector in addressing business transformation in post-pandemic economies. As highlighted in this year's Investors Week global theme, there can be no economic recovery post the COVID-19 pandemic without transformation in the way we do business and the way we think about the future, which heavily relies on building stronger, sustainable, and resilient economies. The world is at a critical juncture, and how we move forward and build partnerships now will have lasting impact on the future of business and in our environment. In this regard, angel investment and public-private partnerships, PPPs, will be key ingredients in developing lasting solutions. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, from what I understand and going by the WBAF President's remarks, Mr. Atantas, the World Business Angels Investment Forum invites policymakers to develop smart policies that will provide financial support to startups, scale-ups, SMEs, and all entrepreneurs to help them transform their business in a smart, inclusive, and sustainable way. In line with this stance, WBAF believes that more public-private partnerships should be mobilized for this purpose. Well, I'm happy to share that Zambia, through my government, is proud to take on this global challenge with serious commitments towards recovery plans that include not only financial support for entrepreneurs' business transformation efforts, but through building a green economic recovery infrastructure as espoused in our policies and national strategies. As the world transforms with the evolution of technology, climate, politics, and economics, there are interconnected practices which positively balance environmental and social goals for the good of nature, citizens, and businesses. Leading the way is the green economy, an economic model that prioritizes the success of human well-being and social equity while reducing environmental risks and ecological scarcity. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as a government that looks out for sustainable and inclusive socio-economic development for the benefit of the people, we are excited by this kind of partnerships and drive towards building public-private partnerships that will attain inclusive business transformation. In this regard, I would like to commend efforts put together by WBAF in setting reminders, every year during the Angel Investors Week about the importance of angel investment and its role in bringing about financial inclusion and business transformation. I'm aware, ladies and gentlemen, that Angel Investors flagship World Business Angel Investors Week is envisioned as a great platform where all stakeholders pause to assess their fast-paced journey to analyze why and how we should leverage angel investment as a must financial tool for boosting economies. It is celebrated every year under a global theme, and this year's Zambia country theme, inclusive green business transformation through angel investment and PPPs, falling under the global theme, business transformation for post-pandemic economies. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, my ministry is happy to witness the World Business Angel Investors Week, creating a unique opportunity to showcase fresh and innovative ideas that inspire current and future leaders of the world to take risks on new ideas, collaborating across sectors and transforming world economies through the scaling of entrepreneurship, angel investment, financial inclusion, and innovation. This is a very special week for Zambia in that it also represents Startup Week Lusaka, being co-hosted between NyamukaAfrica, WEAC and Techstars, which is themed Embracing a Smart Circular Economy. What a great way to bring the green business ecosystem alive. The intersection, ladies and gentlemen, between World Business Angel Investors Week and Startup Week Lusaka will enhance the platform for connecting, learning, sharing, and exchanging know-how that promotes entrepreneurship and angel investment ecosystems. I'm glad, therefore, to be here today because the occasion gives me an opportunity to meet progressive entrepreneurship support experts and networks that take their time to share valuable insights, debate on important issues that support enterprise development in Zambia and globally by contributing to such a forum. This forms an important fabric that will foster impactful discussions on important topics around green economies, angel investment, and public-private partnerships. Distinguished guests, our country is struggling currently with high poverty and unemployment levels. SME development is the answer to that, especially if it's supported methodically and systematically. As a ministry, we will encourage innovation and work with institutions like WEAC and NyamukaAfrica through their various partners and affiliations, such as the WBAF, to create platforms that progressively build a smart approach to economic activities in the startups. SMEs are an important stakeholder in realizing the collective efforts we are all envisioning. Distinguished guests, my ministry is aware of the global challenges faced due to climate change and affecting enterprises in Zambia and globally. These issues include, but not limited to, deforestation, green gas emissions, and resulting in climate change, which is affecting agriculture, which is one of Zambia's economic drivers and a way of livelihood for most Zambians. As a ministry, we are coming with modalities to address these challenges in partnership with other ministries and departments. The New Dawn government, under the leadership of His Excellency Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, realizes that private sector development is key, and this will be achieved through an industrial Zambia. However, we have to build industries that are smart, inclusive, and sustainable. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the New Dawn government is aware that most SMEs have been adversely impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, and we engage them to see how best we can support them as a ministry, especially the women-owned and led businesses. My ministry will continue to engage all stakeholders to promote more inclusivity of women-owned MS, medium and small medium enterprises in the COVID-19 economic recovery and reconstruction agenda through appropriate policies, strategies, and initiatives. As I conclude, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I would like to commend WBAF for coming up with initiatives that support growth of smart solutions globally and provide platforms and networks for linkages to angel investments, scale-up support. We are happy to have such strong representation in Zambia by Mrs. Nambula Kachumi, WAA Executive Director and WBAF Senator for Zambia, who has been a strong partner of the government of Zambia in driving business transformation with gender-balanced adaptation top on her agenda. To this roundtable event happened today in Zambia, and equally, other events happening in over 132 countries to commemorate World Business Angel Investors Week and Startup Week Lusaka. I wish you all the best and great outcomes of these engagements. We, as the Ministry of Green Economy and Environment, will be looking forward to some meaningful pointers and recommendations. This will be vital to the government of the Republic of Zambia as we find means and ways to respond to real issues affecting all of us. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish you success and I thank you for your kind attention.
And there you have it. So we talked about how the government is actually planning on supporting SMEs. And as a woman SME, I'm even more excited to actually know that they're actually looking at how they can help us thrive and create more sustainable businesses. And something important that he mentioned, it's about creating smart businesses. And now we're going to move into a more exciting session, which is a roundtable talk where we'll have our two guests who will be talking about our theme today, or our country theme, which is the inclusive green business transformation through angel investment and public-private partnership. And from that theme, our discussion today will be based on inclusive business transformation through smart investment and public-private partnerships. On the stand with me is I have Phil Daka, who's the Chief Executive Officer of Zambia Chamber of Commerce and Industry in Zambia. And then we also have the amazing Jacqueline Chishimba, who's the Director, Strategic Communication and Partnerships and the Public-Private Dialogue Forum. Welcome to today's dialogue.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. And I'm sure from the talks that we have had, I'm sure there are a couple of things that you've also picked up, but something that we all did not see is the hit from COVID pandemic. And I know you've seen a couple of SMEs that have actually failed from that. I don't know, maybe from just the conversations or just from the speeches that we have had, before we can dive into our conversation, is there something that just stands out to you that you feel SMEs out there just need to be reassured or need to know more about from your level of expertise? We can start
Phil,
with
would
Phil.
you like to go?
As the ladies will give you the floor.
Thank you, Tao. Thank you, Jacqueline. I was thinking it was going to be the ladies first.
No. We are good when we're the two of us, so it's up to you.
Thank you so much. And before I just go into responding to that question that you've asked, I just want to take this moment to just appreciate WEAC, with the able leadership of Ms. Nambula Kachumi for putting up, I think, this very, very important roundtable. This is very, very key to the happenings of not only Zambia, but the globe at large, because like you mentioned, the question posed here is discussing COVID-19. What do we do after COVID-19? Alongside that, we've got quite a lot that we'll unpack, obviously coming out of the theme. Also, just to recognize the speech and the involvement of the Green Ministry. I think Honorable Nzovu just gave some very, very good remarks. I can't take away from what the previous speaker also alluded to. In responding to your question, Tabo, you see COVID-19 as very minute a virus could have been, I think it caused quite morbid global problems. And we saw that there was quite a lot of disruptions in commerce trade industry. There was a lot of economic disruptions in the flow of supply value chains. everyone was affected. Academia, innovators, name them. Banking and financing institutions equally were affected. Those were some of the very worrying elements because we found that the impact on businesses were very huge. But away from the impact is a very upside of things that we have picked from COVID-19 as a private sector and as a business. It has taught us how to embrace e-commerce. It has taught us how to embrace the aspect of innovation, thinking outside the box. And this is some of the things we're discussing today.
Exactly.
Then we've also talked about creating very sustainable financing options. You know, financiers for the longest of time have been looking at very traditional ways of presenting finances to innovators, entrepreneurs, but COVID-19 came in and shaped them very, very well. So there's quite a lot that COVID-19 itself has brought with it.
If I can just interfere on that, would you say we needed COVID? Would you say it was more of a wake-up call for SMEs, especially even other different businesses? Something important that you've said is it brought out the innovative side of us. Typical example, when we couldn't go to restaurants to buy food, we had the delivery bikes that came about. So would you say we needed a little bit of a shake when it comes to the business world with the pandemic, despite the other bad side of it that came up?
The death side of things I'm not promulgating.
Yes, no, that would be
but the
away
innovation side of it, I think I'm pushing because look, for a business and any enterprise to evolve, there has to be an aspect of innovation.
Yes.
Then the good thing that I want to stick to is obviously the bone of contention. Today we're speaking innovative and sustainable solutions post-COVID-19. This is the climate and environmental consciousness side of things. There's quite a lot of things that we didn't know then that we have come to embrace now. Look, the globe is at Sustainable Development Goals promulgation. And in there is the climate observance issues that are going on in there. There's quite a myriad of innovators that have such kind of practices, such kind of innovative strategies and ideas, but what they've been lacking is what? Financing options. This is what we'll be parceling out today. Banks now have gone and evolved to making sure that they only give monies to people that have got environmental conscious products. Eco-friendly products. So those are some of the things that I was mentioning. So did we need COVID-19? Yes, it's a blessing.
It's a blessing. Yeah. So now, how do you think we've responded now? Because now we're talking about business transformation. Have we responded in a way that's actually benefiting us? I know you've touched on it a bit, on us being innovative, but do you think we've responded in the right way, in the right manner that we should have? We've seen other countries who've even adjusted to simple ways of just working from home and reducing, when it comes to pollution, you're not driving to work as much as you used to. So now when it comes back to Zambia and we look at our own SMEs, do you think we've responded as we should have?
The SME problem, I want to generalize my response.
Yes.
The SME problem is not a now or COVID-19 problem. This is a problem that we've had time immemorial. COVID era, I think, has taught how to enhance ourselves and put ourselves in a state of preparedness. Have we as Zambians, SMEs or businesses really adapted? The answer is yes. Why? Because we are now aligning ourselves to the global agenda that I just mentioned. There's this shift of going green, and there are pockets and pockets of funds that are allocated to the green financing side of things, and everyone is moving to that. Same way we have treated corporate governance. I'm just trying to build context. Corporate governance to some extent has been treated as a hobby in the operations of any system. They have not taken it as part or a mainstream agenda. So people would really just play around with it. Then there's an aspect of ESG, environmental sustainable governance, which is coming in now. Now people have really woken up, have gnashed teeth in that because it comes with incentives. So anything that is incentivized, people will really grasp it. So there's a lot of incentives, and the monies that are there now to push innovators, to incubate, to sustain or redevelop the business are all coming with certain levels of attachment. So they are saying, look, it's not about me, Tabo, going to get the money and push my business. It's how I'm operating in the same environment that is giving me the money to push the business.
Yes.
So these are some of the practices that has come with COVID-19, not really pronounced during the COVID-19 era, because we need to be very, very mindful of the environment that we are pushing in. And then there comes also the innovation side of things. So yes, SMEs in country, outside the country are now alive to the fact that every time I'm going to innovate, there has to be an environmental aspect that I'm attaching to any sort of trade that I want to go in.
I love that you've mentioned the fact of actually understanding your environment, also creating businesses that have either an economic or a social impact. And I think those are some of the things that you've learned about the Academy for Women Entrepreneurs and the WEAC, is that every time you're creating a business model, the question is, what problem are you solving and who are you solving it for? And is the environment conducive enough? And if it's not, are you going to make the environment conducive enough? So coming to you, Jacqueline, what would be your response towards how SMEs or businesses in general have actually responded to the COVID-19 pandemic, and how are we even creating sustainable business models, or do you think we haven't actually created those sustainable business models?
Thank you very much, Tabo, and really great gratitude to WEAC. I'm a member of WEAC. Sometimes I say I'm a partner in WEAC. Thank you very much to Ms. Kachumi and her team, and knowing where they're coming from until today. Before we could discuss a whole transformed and sustainable environment for SME, we should remember that there's a player that is cardinal in their businesses, and that is government.
Definitely.
And because today I'm speaking from the Public-Private Dialogue Forum, so I'm speaking as government, because the Public-Private Dialogue Forum, of course, is an initiative of the government of Zambia, sitting in the president's office, but supported by the IFC World Bank. We need to look at, is government firstly adapting, post the pandemic? And yes, they are. Number one, the formation of the public-private dialogue is one of the initiatives to actually adapt our economy post-pandemic. And what will it do? It will bring together the private and public sector on one structured and organized platform for them to find solutions to the bottlenecks that actually hamper business and business growth among the SMEs and of course, the bigger business players, both local and international, operating in this country. You will also find out that there's a report that was published by the World Bank in partnership with the government of Zambia on digitizing Zambia in order to transform this economy post-pandemic. And in this report, government did explain clearly that they're fully aware that it's important to digitize business in this country. And by doing so, we are going to increase the cost of production. And like you said earlier on when we started, you said, because the pandemic locked us in home, what we discovered was suddenly we all went online. So we used the internet so much and said, where's Mr. Delivery, where's whoever, Orlando, everybody you could think of. So if we combine the internet, with human capability, what do? As a country, that's now we're going digital transformation. We increase productivity in the private sector. We increase efficiency in government. There's less room for leakages. We actually open ourselves to digital financial services, which I think we now see. Even banking has been made easier. You don't want to go to the bank every day as an SME. So the cost of doing business is reduced. Zambia really is on the right path and in that trajectory. Taking from Elias Chipimo's speech, he said there's huge youth unemployment. So post the pandemic, what has happened? Unemployment has shot. What are we to do? Like Phil had said, innovation. Did we need COVID? No, we did not need COVID. COVID just accelerated us.
It was a wake-up call.
Yes, accelerated us on the journey to get to where we're going to get to eventually, but much, much later. which is innovation, transformation, digitalization, understanding that I can actually be very productive in my home and not necessarily be in the office. So yes, Zambia is on the right track, and I think that government is really pushing in that focus, and organizations like Zaki, where Phil is coming from, have been working tirelessly post-pandemic. We've seen how the banks through ZABs have come together, and even what we are doing now. The fact that we are analyzing and we're talking about it, we've seen how it's become important that coding and digital programming and computer science and computer lessons are mainstreamed in the education sector.
Yes.
And in the report I'm talking about, you'll see that government had actually put it on the table, number one, saying that we need to ensure that a child as young as 5 years old in preschool is able to understand how to use a computer at their level. Computer information for their age, and as they grow with it in school. So yes, Zambia is on the right track, and I think that both the public sector and the private sector really need to dialogue and work together to ensure that we achieve high productivity, we create employment. We've seen how young people have become very innovative. We've seen how many apps you will find on the internet, Zambian apps today that allow you to buy clothes, allow you to buy food, to pick yourself up from one point to the next, to travel, to make a call, to communicate. So we are on the right path.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. Recently we had discussions of how in 2020, PACRA had recorded over 16,000 newly registered businesses in Lusaka only. And now the questions were, if we have those many businesses, then why isn't the level of employment actually going up, or the level of unemployment going down? Would it be that we're not creating businesses that are actually creating employment, or do you think there's a gap between understanding how it is or how we can actually create businesses that can solve problems? I think there are not so many young people out there who are going to hubs such as Bongo Hive or WEAC to get all this knowledge. So do you feel there's a gap there? Because there's only so much the government can do, there's only so much the private sector can do. So what do you think we can do now to create that ecosystem where all of us are driving towards one goal?
Yes.
Okay.
Thabo,
maybe I can start with you.
Thank you. Thabo, it's good to start a business, and as a nation, it's actually a good practice to encourage entrepreneurs, as many people as possible, to take up business entrepreneurship, to open organizations and companies and production houses. However, you will notice that Zambia has been challenged with a number of regulatory policies and licenses, sometimes that make doing business very expensive. So the cost of doing business in the country is quite high. Hence the PPD.
Yes.
Yes. Not all the policies or the licenses will be squashed off. No. Some of them will be enhanced because probably they were very weak. Others were probably very strong and disadvantaging you and I as an entrepreneur or an SME. Yes. So that, the tension, the impact, the adverse impact of you running a business or starting a business is eased. And you have, a smooth sailing entry into the entrepreneurship world. And I think that's important. Secondly, again, I'll pick from Elias Chipimo's speech. He talked about mentorship. If you look at WEAC has been mentoring for a number of years, but they can only take in so much. And obviously they want to expand. So what we need are deliberate efforts by especially international organizations operating in Zambia, because some of the international organizations that we have operating in this country run the best mentorship programs in the world today. So why can't they partner with organizations that are local, like WEAC and many others, and come up with this big mentorship hub, that can take in a lot more people? So if WEAC is taking 400, for instance, let it be that by the end of the year, the account should be they're taking in 5,000, because there's that partnership between WEAC, who is private sector, and then another private sector but international operating locally, and obviously government coming in, public sector, to ensure that the environment is enabling for the two to work together.
I love what you have said. So they're not coming in to reinvent the wheel. They're
Right.
coming in to work with what already exists. Because then
Absolutely.
we'll all be driving towards one direction.
Yes.
So just in case you're joining us, I'm your moderator. My name is Tawo, and we're having discussions here with the lovely Jacqueline and Phil. And our topic is focused on inclusive business transformation through smart investment and public-private partnerships. So one thing we want to create are conversations like this where SMEs are able to attend and listen to what is happening, be it on the government perspective and also on the private perspective. I think there's been talks around, no, government is not supporting SMEs. The policies, just as you had mentioned, it's very expensive to actually start up or run a business as an SME. It's always a great idea until you get on the ground. There's so much to pay for, name registration, company registration, and all those things. So then what would you say would be the right direction for SMEs from now? COVID pandemic has happened, so now we are transforming our minds into get the work done. What would be your say on that, Phil?
Before I answer that, I want to add on to what
Yes,
Jacqueline
please.
said.
Yes, please.
And I'm very happy that you brought in certain statistics. And you know, I'm a numbers guy. I like statistics. 16,000 companies registered
Yes.
in Lusaka alone.
And Lusaka
Yes.
alone.
Why are we still crying unemployment in the country? So that's just Lusaka. And mind you, Zambia has got a population of how many? 20 plus million
Yes,
people. 10 provinces. If Lusaka can account for 16,000, Ndola 10,000, and would really change the narrative when it comes to employment. Now, I mentioned figures. Let me tell you something. This country has got 50 plus universities. Okay? That produces 400,000 graduates.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah, yeah.
400,000 graduates, and there's only 50,000 jobs that the labor market churns out. 50,000. Okay? So I want us to get to a certain level.
Yes.
Then if we can push it probably to a continental or regional level, you'll find that there's about 11 million jobs, Africa-wise, that are produced, right? And fighting for a 3.7 million jobs available in Africa. What happens to the 7.3 million? Now, responding to the question before I go to SME policies, what we need to be looking at right now is, I think, mainstreaming the discussion of today. Let's not wait until we have the World Investment or Angel Investors Day for us to promulgate entrepreneurship in country. Maybe we are all rushing for white-collar jobs when we can be creating the jobs ourselves. So what are we supposed to be doing? Number one, we need to redesign the school curriculum in this country.
Yes.
Thank you, Tabo. I've spoken to this kind of statement on so many platforms that I've featured. We need to really redraft the school curriculum. 400,000 versus 50,000 jobs. Why should I even panic to go and get a PhD, master's, and when I can be my own boss? Then two, the issue that we Zambians have is casualness. I'm saying we, I'm part of the chain itself. It's casualness because we're speaking entrepreneurship as a side hustle. Can we please change that narrative? Can the police start arresting everyone on the streets that is saying entrepreneurship is a side hustle?
Yes.
We need to mainstream entrepreneurship. Zinja Thropas, Homo habilis, Shaka Zulu, and all those funny things, we need not. We need to streamline so much so that if the guy is at level 5, before they hit tertiary, they understand when I go into tertiary, I'm going to go for a business course to become a consultant, my own boss, or to develop solutions that certain SMEs are grappling with. Those are the things. SMEs, we are very grateful to the creation of the SME ministry in country. But that ministry should present a very streamlined mandate to all of us that are watching and listening and discussing this. We want to have a ministry that is going to look at capacity building of SMEs at all echelons. MSMEs, startups, ideation even. Because you and I, if I just have an idea, where do I run it? Where do I go to? I can't get funding there unless I go into the experts like WEAC, and that's when it translates into something. But the angel investment we're talking about here, there are people with sizes of monies that want to put monies in an innovation that is not even heard anywhere else, but they believe into that. So we need to have a cross-fertilization platform where we exchange ideas, so much so that these ideas are tickling the fancy of investors elsewhere there. Let us have that. So maybe by the time we're recalibrating our school program, those things will really be pronounced. Policies on SMEs. There is over-regulation in country. And you know, if you've looked at the FinScope survey and all these other surveys you want in terms of doing business in country, we just fluctuate. Today we are at 90 something, the next time is 200, today we are at 50. We need to have some level of resonance in constant way of doing. We need to streamline. Yes, we have one-stop business registration houses, but they are looking at a certain band of an innovator there. SMEs in this country, we have grappled to even define who an SME is, because go to ZRA, they've got a certain way they define an SME. Go to the banks define them differently. Come to Zaki, I define SMEs differently. So who are we looking at? It's high time we bundled these people together, because there is no $100,000 that was just $100,000. It started with a cent. So ideation level, you put them to that incubation level, SME, macro, whatever you want to call them, then up to the blue chip and growth stage side of things. So yes, we have policies that really have strangulated the promulgation of entrepreneurship, but we are seeing that through cross-pollination of ideas, private sector, government, CSOs coming together, we are changing these things in the name of. Then Jacqueline mentioned that there are so many cooperating partners that are operating in these spaces, and they've got certain agendas they can push to sweeten or develop the SME entrepreneurship side of things here. Look, I'm one person, not to sound very protectionist, okay? Or rather xenophobic, loosely using that. I'm one person that believes in championing local solutions using local problems using local solutions. We have been at the helm of over benchmarking. What is happening in Spain, I need to bring it to Zambia. Spain is on a different level altogether. We can only get what is happening in Spain, then customize it to suit the local environment. That's the thing that the SME ministry should be doing. Pockets of financing. Who is entitled to get in the financials? Sometimes we restrict innovative and viable businesses because we want a business plan. Mentors. She's talked about business coaching and mentors. If you have an idea that somebody has mentored and they see the viability, let them endorse that, and the bank can give you based on the viability of that business. These are the discussions we want to have. So the SME landscape, in as much as it can be the fulcrum of this economy, they are suffering, and they need to really be recognized and making sure that we try with sustainable operations to push in the agenda of SMEs in the country.
I like how you've sort of redefined an SME to be our business project, because you've mentioned how it's important that we all define an SME as one, the banks, the government, the private sector, everybody. And I think that's something very important, because even when you're starting up a business, you have to first define the problem. What problem are you solving? And I think that's something I would agree with you to say we haven't defined even the actual problems for SMEs. For instance, everybody thinks need capital. For some, it's just access to markets. And so now it's about creating those policies that are actually helping SMEs to thrive.
Absolutely.
Now, when we talk about the green economy, do you think as SMEs or as young people, do we have enough knowledge in that area? When you throw it back at them to say, are we creating smart businesses that are eco-friendly? Or are we more just focused on how can I create a business and put money in my pocket? Again, something very important that you talked about is how our education system does not support entrepreneurship. I remember when I started my business, somebody asked me, are you raising money for school? I said, no. this is my business to sustain me. And so now I think we're seeing that shift in mindset where people can say, I'm an entrepreneur, and it's now a cool thing because you can see them at cafes, they're working from there, and they're delivering at the end of the day.
But you see, Tabo, we cannot go on for years on end. We talk about our school curriculum.
Yes.
Yet without realizing that the same school curriculum has gotten Zambian professionals out of this country working for NASA. Okay? So for me, I would rather we flip this coin now and stop condemning it. If you and I know that the curriculum has a problem, you start an initiative that allows you to go into these schools and speak to the school learners. I do that. On Friday, I've been invited to speak at Woodford School here in Lusaka. And they actually spelled it out to me what they wanted me to talk about. In my response, I also added in some things. So I added in a component which says feeding your talents while at school. Why did I include that? It's because I know that even as school learners, we usually know our talents. A child loves to draw. We know this child is going to be a great artist. By the time they're 10 years of age, they're drawing you as a parent fully as you look. They can color whatever they see. Yet you as a parent just feels like, oh, drawing is a by the way. I want them to go to university and become a lawyer. So when we talk about the school curriculum, again, I'll bring it down to all of us as a nation. What role do we all play in the school curriculum? At home, as a mother, what role do I play in my daughter, in my son's school curriculum? The school authorities, the SMEs who were saying, can we transform business post-pandemic? There are so many opportunities. Start an initiative, probably that you call enhancing our school curriculum. Here you are, and all you do as a team is go in the schools and speak to learners about them enhancing their hands, their tools, their skills, their talents. You will be helping the curriculum. If we sit and say government and the Ministry of Education, yes, there is a review of the school curriculum and few things have been added in there if you check. But I think to transform business, like we're discussing today, all of us have to now start questioning, what role can I play to change the status quo, as opposed to waiting for government?
I can see maybe in just a few seconds before we can bring in our next speaker to join us.
I want to rival what Jacqueline has said just a little bit.
Okay.
And why am I saying this? Let me also try to demystify a certain misconception. School curriculum, and what she says is very nice. And I think country director Nambula would attest to this. 5 years now, the issue of SMEs lacking financials, okay, has translated to a national problem. Every time we are commemorating World Savings Day, there's a very bad word we use. The country lacks a financial, whatever it is, saving culture.
Or strategy.
Every time this country lacks a financial, a saving culture. When are we not to unlock? You know why I brought in the school curriculum? Because in my other life, when I was working on the other side, in the capital market, we tried to redraft. Why were we trying to redraft? Because we wanted to change the narrative. When comes that day we are commemorating financial inclusion, World Savings Day, we don't say we lack a financial. So we started doing guest lectures in all the universities. I've been to UNILAS, name all CBU, all universities teaching capital market staff there. That's the way we are trying to do it. What are we doing that? We're trying to pass an education which we feel as society we are obliged to impart to scholars, so much so when they come out, they are already at a certain level to construe investments and stuff like that. Then, the entrepreneurship side of things, 30 seconds I wrap. Entrepreneurship side of things, why were we saying that? We're saying, look, yes, we can't have a grade 5 going child with 13 subjects, home economics, Shani what, name them. But when these guys are coming out, there'll be an entrepreneur like yourself.
Yes.
Why don't we identify certain viable, sustainable economic development traits in school-going kids and focus on that? If I go to school for 5 subjects,
have to catch a
it's
little
5
bit
subjects.
because I know even after Cuthbert is going to speak, I know you guys will have something to say.
Yes.
So we're going to have our third speaker who's joining us via Skype, and his name is Mr. Cuthbert Malindi, who's the co-founder and managing partner of We Invest Zambia. Cuthbert, welcome to the discussion. I'm sure you can see how the private and the public sector and me, the SME here, is trying to fight for my rights. And so we just want to get your input on how you think the SME or just the business sector in general has suffered through. Is it suffered or thrived through the COVID pandemic? How are we doing now, and how are we transforming? Are we creating sustainable business models? What is your take on that? Over to you, Cuthbert.
Okay. No, thank you very much. A very interesting discussion there. Look, I think for me, I'm coming at this more from a business standpoint. An investment standpoint. Because basically, I mean, when we look at COVID, from an investment standpoint, it's what you would call a black swan event, if you like. So when you're in the investment and in the business sector, you have to anticipate those events. So I know COVID turned out to be something worse than we expected. But when you're running a business or in investment, I think those things you naturally expect them. So I think if I can talk around the risks, what COVID has done basically is make the business landscape actually more risky. Now, when I say that, remember after COVID, all of us thought that would settle down, but Putin had other ideas. We know what's happened in Ukraine. So the reason I mentioned that is just to illustrate that the situation we are in now, whether it's COVID or whether it's Ukraine, whether it's macroeconomic stability, it's a risk environment for business and entrepreneurs. And I think for me, what that has highlighted, especially COVID, has highlighted the need for public-private partnership, which Jacqueline has talked to. So, but if I can add to that, you know, when you're running a business, you guys are entrepreneurs yourself. There's no business that can stand the test of time without adopting to change. So we just have to accept COVID as one of those, if you like, episodes where you look at the positives and the negatives. For me, as a venture capitalist, it's actually presented very exciting opportunities. Because if you look at what COVID has done, it's changed the way we work. It's changed the way we shop. It's changed the way we communicate. We don't have to fly all over the world to attend meetings, board meetings. I sit on boards in East Africa. I don't remember the last time I went to the board meeting physically. It's changed e-commerce. Yeah, so for me, it has really brought opportunities that as an entrepreneur, you need to look at as a positive rather than a negative. I think just maybe before maybe you can chip in there, from an investor standpoint, especially venture capital, I mean, what venture capital is about is really investing in innovative ideas. And I call venture capital smart investing. So it fits in very well with your topic. In that venture capital looks at more than just putting money in a business. It's actually other skills, experience, pattern recognition. I mean, I've been doing DC for over 23 years. I can tell you when somebody presents a business proposal to me, within 5 to 10 minutes, I'll know whether it's going to fly or not. And that's the value of venture capital, and that's how it fits in with your topic.
Okay. So maybe if I may ask you, coming from an investor perspective, is Zambia's financing market ready for angel investment, and do you see entrepreneurs responding to post-pandemic businesses? And this should come from how We Invest is actually helping entrepreneurs.
Well, I think that's a very good question. If you look at the investment landscape, even 2021, there's been very little in terms of funding women businesses. Now, what we have done, basically, WEAC and myself, we set up an advisory business called We Invest. Our objective is to, and by the way, we're not apologetic about it.
I'm glad you're not.
We want to focus on women-owned, women-led businesses. And we're going to take them right across the spectrum from capital raising right through to help them exit if they want to sell the business. Because I'll give you a statistic. In 2021, out of 565 startup businesses that were funded in Africa, only 21% of those were women-led, or the founders were women. So clearly, there is still male domination in business, as well as in the investment world. So for us, the We Invest initiative it's critical, and I would like to work with a lot of partners in the ecosystem. But we really want to target women-led. We know what women can. Don't ask me why, but I've always found that I work better with women. Yeah, so, and if you compare male businesses and female business, to be quite honest, I don't want to sound like a ravishing fellow man. Female businesses have tended to do better. And therefore, I have no doubt that there's enough pipeline in Zambia for us to really promote women business in a smart way.
No, thank you so much for that. And I'm sure we have a couple of burning contributions from here. So maybe before we wrap up our program, from Jacqueline and Phil, do you have anything to say in response to what Cuthbert has actually talked about? Yes. And I'm happy that he's not apologetic about women entrepreneurs.
Yes. Thank you, Thabo. Great to see you, Cuthbert, and to share this important platform with you. He's not only my senior mentor, but a friend as well, just like Nambula. I think you brought out a very cardinal issue where you indicated that post-pandemic has actually presented a lot of opportunities to you as a venture capitalist. And I think that is the mindset that a lot of SMEs must have. In the beginning, just after the pandemic had subdued, I think we noticed a lot of SMEs crying out to government, crying out to the banks, we have nothing, we are finished. Everybody, going on to media and saying organizations are closing. But if you are able to notice and obviously pick out the opportunities that are existing in all this, what others term a sad situation, then I would, gladly say that it would be wise for strategic partnerships where opportunities, those that actually observe the opportunities, sort of share and trickle them down to those that don't see the opportunities. But having said that, how are you ensuring that these opportunities that you've spotted are actually being passed on or educated to or informed to the SMEs that, for lack of a better term, are in a corner feeling squeezed post-pandemic? Thank you.
Maybe in just under a minute, Cuthbert, you could respond to that, and then we'll quickly move on to Phil.
I actually missed the question.
Oh, really?
He'll get
How
to
come?
I thought it was a comment rather than a question.
Okay.
Oh,
So
okay.
Just quickly.
my question, in short, my question was, since you've spotted some opportunities post-pandemic, how are you informing or educating other SMEs to be able to tap into seeing those opportunities and, leveraging on them, as opposed to just being stuck in a corner and feeling like this is the end of the world? COVID finished us off. Thank you.
Absolutely. No, thank you for that. I always say, in the age of information, ignorance is really a choice. I think we live in a world now where even for entrepreneurs, there's so many sources of information. You've mentioned WEAC. You've mentioned other platforms. Actually, going back to Phil's point, I don't know whether it was Jacqueline or Phil's point about international players like us coming to Zambia. Previously, they would do the work themselves, but I am seeing a lot of partnerships. Mm-hmm. So one is really access to information, but information, you see, it's no longer about having knowledge. It's about how you apply that knowledge.
That's right.
And that's where people like me and other mentors and other experienced entrepreneurs come in. I do feel, and it's something I've talked to Elias about, and I think I need to nudge him a little bit more. There are a number of successful entrepreneurs in Zambia. But somehow, we don't like to be visible. So for me, that's a challenge out to Elias and other entrepreneurs in Zambia. Let's be out there. Let's encourage young people. I'm mentoring and coaching a young Zambian. He's Zambian, by the way, but based in South Africa. You know what he's done? He's come up with an app for mental health. This was driven by COVID. Well, we started doing this just before. But you guys will know that during COVID, mental health became very focal point. So you can see how experienced entrepreneurs can then make themselves available to young entrepreneurs to really point them in the right direction and not to fear. I'm not scared. I'm not scared of anything. I'm not scared of losing money. You need to have that kind of mindset.
Okay. No, thank you. Thank you so much for that, Cuthbert. And I know Phil has a couple of things to contribute. But while you are just addressing either what Jacqueline said or what Cuthbert said, I would want you to also address on how can we improve access to funding for SMEs, and what can we do, either be it on the private sector or even just advice to the SMEs themselves. How can they improve on that?
Thank you. Nice to see you, Cuthbert. It's been 5 years.
Nice to see you, Phil. You're getting younger.
I'll tell you the secret. I already told Nambula. Yeah, so a question that you asked Tabo. You see, there is quite a lot of sophistication that is coming with the investment arena. The VC where Cuthbert is coming from, any investor somewhere, there's a level of sophistication that they are touching as and when they are placing their monies into something. Whilst we were speaking on the women's side of business, I want to use this term. Do not do anything for me without me. Okay? Many of the women-led, and I'm saying this because of the 500,000 or 50,000 that you mentioned, Cuthbert? 565,000. I'll be very honest with you. When you really delve into what really forms the extrapolation of that figure and you aggregate to who is in that space, most of it will go to a certain level of poverty alleviation women support program, not the total mainstream transition or transformational business side of things, okay? Now, I would want to agree with Cuthbert that there's quite a lot of women in this country that are doing pretty well than us men. One, because of probably the get-rich-quick scheme side of things we guys want to go in, and women really respect due process and they attach this slow gratification of things. So that really marks all the boxes for investments. Now, the VC side of space, Cuthbert, that I want to really probe and push from yourself is that to some extent, and I have had a very, very clear postmortem of all VCs in country, most of the VCs, they've jumped the VC bridge to going into the commercialized VC operations, where even the women-led business, some of them, they won't look at the viability side. I don't want to call names in the country. They would want to ask things as the banks would ask of things. But I'm telling you, Cuthbert and I, we've been discussing these things, and I know the type of a person he's. That's why he said 5 minutes, I'm able to say this is fine, this is going to die, and things like that. We need that kind of VC, and that's the spirit of a VC. So okay. I'm responding to your question. What is it that SMEs should be doing in the country and entrepreneurs?
Yes.
The spirit of readiness. Most of the SMEs and entrepreneurs in country have not even documented their businesses. You need to document your business. You need to nurture your business, so much so that when chance presents itself for you to meet VCs like Cuthbert and others, you are able to give them some sort of credence in what you're trying to go in. So you need to be in a state of preparedness. Even here, when the minister can walk in here with $3 million and ask all of us here who wants to get $500,000 from there and pay it back in 1 year, we would all get, but we don't know where we are taking the $500,000. So there has to be an aspect of preparedness.
Yes.
Then the VCs also, you cannot inform unless you are informed. Testimonials, like he said, these things should be there. There's information starvation in the country, so people are dying with their ideas.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. And I must say, I'm sure to so many SMEs who are watching out there, or even just the private sector and the public sector, I think we've just started a fire that we even need to continue post this. And I know as you are watching, you could have some burning questions, so just put them in the comment section, and I'm sure somebody from either the Academy for Women Entrepreneurs or under WEAC, they'll actually be there to answer these questions. But I'm glad that we're having these conversations. I think it's important that we can actually steer up these conversations. So thank you so much, Jacqueline, for joining us. Thank you, Cuthbert, for joining us. And thank you, Phil, for joining us.
Thank you.
I hope from here we can also continue these conversations with other young people so that we can be more and more engaging. And there you have it. I've been your moderator. My name is Tawo Joy Masie, and this whole talk was just about seeing how we can create a thriving environment, be it for SMEs or even just the business world at large, post-pandemic, and how we can also create more effective businesses. And then the ultimate goal is actually to create jobs and reduce the level of unemployment. And for women, you've had it. There's so many opportunities for you out there. So it's up to you to grab them and see how we can create a better country for ourselves. Thank you for joining in.
Thank you.